What's up, motherfucker? I'm gonna do this real quick. Uh, Mrs. Kaa was talking about speculating about why Eli's lady lost her nursing license. I do think it is a possibility that you can lose it for assaulting somebody. Um, because they view that as the real possibility that you could, you know, uh, abuse your patients. Is what I would say. Now, if that's not the case, you can't lose your license for assaulting somebody or for assault. Hey, what's up, Jules? If you can't lose your license for assault, what the thing is that you might as well not have a license because you won't get hired. I guarantee you that because they do such a fucking thorough fucking background check. You wouldn't fucking believe. They look up your ass, you on these background checks that they do on us. Okay. So, I never had a background check like some of the background checks some of these employers are doing on me currently, ever. I've never had that kind of a background check done on me. Um, but yeah, you probably will have some problems if you get a DWI, DUI, have some sort of a substance issue. Um, but that assault thing, I think there is some assault issues that can create an issue for your license. Now, can I guarantee that? No, I can't. But like I said, you can have a license and have a bunch of assaults on your record and or something. Oh, I'm disagreeing with Mrs. Kaa about how Eli's lady may have lost that license. Because I was listening to Mrs. Kaa. Mrs. Kaa, I don't have a problem with Mrs. Kaa. You know, so I somewhat disagree with. Depends on what kind of assault, what you did. Like for example, if you got assault on an elderly person, or you got negligence of an elderly person, like your mother was elderly and you got convicted of negligence or abusing your elderly mother somehow or something, right? Well, you probably will not be able to get a fucking nursing license with that. There's certain things that you that they will take that shit away. So if she got a domestic assault charge, that's a real possibility. That is a real possibility that she had that license yanked over something like that. That's not something I would doubt. Now, do I think that that's what happened? Not necessarily. I mean, I think it's far more likely that the woman was drunk, like you're saying, and that she had a substance abuse issue, like you're saying. I think that that is far more likely the scenario as it went, right? But is it a possibility what his lady is saying, quote unquote lady is saying? Sure, I think it is a possibility that could have affected her license. Absolutely. You know, um, Now granted, things are a little bit different here than they are probably there, right? But I do believe his lady was in Florida, if I remember correctly, right? So, but if you're in a situation where you cannot be hired on as a nurse or you have to go a long period of time unable to be hired on as a nurse, you know, what is the point in keeping up with your continuing education hours? I mean, you're just throwing your money away at that point, right? I mean, if you're working a retail job, you can't make enough money to, pay rent. What the fuck are you going to keep up with your license for? You know? So, I mean, it's a possibility that she had such a problem getting hired on that, she didn't bother renewing her license. I'd say that's a real, you know, right. Well, her addiction issues are creating some major issues. Um, doing what I'm doing now. Now, if I had like some sort of like neglect, abuse, child abuse, anything that I got, I would not be hired on for the job I have. You cannot have a fucking record of any kind, and do what I do. It just will not happen. Um, so if you do something fucked up, you better not get caught. Oh yeah, brother, I'm bullshitting for a minute. I ain't doing nothing serious. I'm just talking about Eli and his lady and kind of what they were talking about at the moment. Mrs. Kaa. Now, of course, I'm in Texas. They're in California, and I'm not sure if his lady was licensed in California or not. From what I understand, Eli's lady was licensed in Florida, wasn't she? So if she had a Florida license that she transferred over, did she even bother to transfer it over because she had the shit on her record already? So if you're in a completely different state, yeah. Well, some cops don't. Some cops do. But I think that a big problem that a lot of people are having with giving police officers more money is that teachers are making so little already, right? Oh yeah, well I'm talking about Mrs. Call. Mrs. Call was talking about nursing license and shit. So I figured I'd throw my 2 cents in about that particular subject since hey, I'm a nurse. So, but I think that if she didn't lose her license, let's say quote unquote she didn't lose her license technically, that she just didn't do the continuing education hours, right? Because she had an assault on her record and she couldn't get a fucking job. Oh yeah, sure. I mean, but like I said, it's a real possibility that a motherfucker could lose their license over some sort of an assault charge. I could get an assault charge. They could look at that and say, "Well, we don't want you working here because we don't know if you lost your cool out here on the street, right? You lose your cool. Will you lose your cool, on one of our patients?" Because you got to think of what I'm dealing with in my current situation, even. In my current situation, certain individuals are not thinking correctly. Their kidneys ain't working right, right? So they're not thinking correctly. They could lose their shit on you, right? Or they could do something or say something that's going to try to they could try to trigger you or get you going, right? So if you're the kind of person that would lose your cool on somebody testing you, that could be a very bad situation for them. If you were to lose your cool with another nurse, that could be a very bad situation for them, right? So they don't want somebody like that. If you got something on your record that looks bad like that, now if you don't have nothing for, X amount of years or something, you might be able to get away with that. But if you got something on your record that is, within those X amount of years, or you do something, you're done with, it's over for you. You will never get fucking hired on. That won't happen. I guarantee you. Exactly, Keith. If you're working with somebody vulnerable like that, yes, absolutely, Keith. That's exactly what it is. You can't work with a vulnerable person. They're bringing people in ambulances. They're bringing people in that have all kinds of issues. Stiff tip. French kisses dogs to arouse Jamie. Oh goddamn. Whatever works, man. But yeah, you can't work with people like that. And yeah, you would think that it would vary state from state, but you're talking about the state of Texas, man. We're talking about like somebody that we probably put up with a lot of shit that a lot of people don't. But I mean, then you're talking about corporations. Now you go state to state from one corporations are the same and very similar from state to state. When you have a major corporation running a business that is a healthcare business, right? What's up? What's up, for real? Zill? I don't even know. Azazel, I guess. I suspect the lady lost her license due to either drink or having a record. That's exactly what I suspect, Keith. Or she had something on her record that was so bad that she could never get hired on as a nurse again. Hey, what's up, Kimmy? Hey, what's up, GLM? Or she had something, like I said, on her record that she could never get a job as a nurse again. She had to work, retail jobs. That's why she had to go and work retail jobs because her erection is small because of genetics. Oh my god. Oh, I bet. I bet you couldn't have a record at all in anywhere almost. Like I said, these corporations are very similar. Now, like whenever I was filling out my shit, the corporation that I'm working for, they work in California, and it was like California and a couple of other states. If you there's a couple of things that are a little bit of shit that's different. So if you were living in that state, you'd have to click on that certain thing and look at like what the very few differences were. But the reality is that if a corporation operates in Texas a certain kind of way, it's not going to operate a whole lot different in California or somewhere else. So if you're looking for a nursing job, where's the most likely place that you're going to work? That's going to be like some sort of a large corporation, a very large company or some kind, right? That works all the way across the country. That's probably one of the most likely areas. They hire more nurses than anybody, right? Because that's the way it is. And I'll tell you a fact, man. If I complete my shift, right? Let's say I work an 8-hour shift, right? And I want to go and work another 8-hour shift. And let's say that I'm going to work, that I don't have anything available in my particular location. They will let me literally, not even clock out. All I got to do is just punch it in on my time clock, right? And I can go to that other location. If I want to go visit Skady in Ohio, it's a real possibility that they might pay me to go all the way to Ohio and work. you know, they'll give me a per diem and all kinds of bullshit. Let's say I say, hey, I want to go to Ohio and work a day, right? Or I'm just done with my shift that day. They don't have nothing else going on at my particular facility. They will let me clock in for another facility down the road a little ways. Maybe I go to Houston. Maybe I say, okay, well, I'll go to Houston. All right, and it takes me an hour to get there. They'll pay me the hour to get there, and they'll give me a per diem to get there, and then they'll pay me the entire 8 hours I'm there over there. So I got paid for 16 hours instead of just 8. So I mean, they do, so they are desperate for nurses. Well, Kim, I just want to go visit old Skady. That's all I was talking about. Hey, I'll come by and visit you too. It'll be all right. Damn. Kim, you are funny. But yeah, so you can do whatever, whatever you want to do. Like they are so desperate that it's unreal, but they ain't desperate enough to hire somebody with something in their fucking record, to where they could get in trouble. Oh yeah, I will. I'll knock next time. I'll say, hey, how you doing, girl? He has to drop an eyebrow load in Ohio. That's funny shit. Oh goddamn. But yeah. So I mean that's the fucked up thing is that they need people so desperately and they really do and they can't hire somebody that has something bad on the record. It ain't gonna happen. You know, just being an older gentleman, it gave me I had trouble, getting in there. You know what I mean? But and not having anything on my record, I still had trouble. But they are, there's some places that are very desperate that they will take them on all day long. They would hire another 30 of us tomorrow if they could. That's how desperate they are. They couldn't hire enough. You know, they can't hire enough. They got a waiting list of patients waiting for nurses. I mean, that's how it is. They got the equipment, they got the facilities. They don't have the nurses to take it all on. They would run 3 shifts. They ain't even running 3 shifts right now. that's how short they are. They were very, very desperate. If you could pass a drug test, if you could pass a background check, you were in. You know what I mean? I couldn't miss. I found one of them places that was like that, to where if you could pass a background check, if you could pass a drug test, you were fucking in. And you'd have to do something really bad to get fired in this situation, right? You got to really fuck up, real bad, you know, to get fired, and so I mean, it's a terrible situation, man. They you talking about patients with a 3 to 5 year, expected life expectancy. You're expecting these situations where these people are very, very ill. They're very sick. You know, you're extending their lives. They're begging you to help them extend their lives, and there's so many of them that you can't help them all. How sad is that? How terrible is that? Um, anytime that I say, oh well, I'm not going to work, but X amount of hours, that may be somebody's death. That every time I decide, hey, I'm not going to work, all these hours like that, or the less hours I work, the more chances there are of somebody not living. That's the situation I'm facing. I don't know if I can handle that or not. I'm going to try the best I can. I think I'm going to enjoy it because you get a chance to really like sit down and hang out with your patients, and that it gotta be there for X amount of hours every week. And you're going to be sitting there, conversing with each other, back and forth like that. And, I can be funny and entertaining and shit, and so, that's one of the things I'm counting on, I'm counting that improves somebody's life and makes it better. Will it? I don't know, so I hope so. I hope I can do, a good job at doing that. Not only, providing the care, but providing, some entertainment, some whatever that's going on there. A lot of the women will refer to their nurse there as like their husband or something. They'll be, oh, this is my husband away from my husband or something, and shit like that. So you can have a good time with those jokes and kidding around and doing different shit. And it's funny shit, to hear them do that and kid around, and some of the jokes they tell and everything. I think that it will be very enjoyable for me in a lot of ways. Is it tough in a lot of ways? Sure, it's very tough in a lot of ways. hmm But you're trying to help people, and that's what you're trying to do with yourself. So, I mean, it just creates a very difficult situation. But is it a possibility that she was able to lose her job and lose her license over a domestic assault charge? I absolutely believe that that is a real possibility. If you get that, there is a real possibility that could affect your license and your job. Absolutely. If I got one today, if some woman accused me of beating her ass today, I think that that would definitely affect my license and definitely affect my job. 100,000%. I wouldn't even want to try it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that that would absolutely do it. hmm And it would also depend on where you're working at. What nursing job are you doing? And then if you that's I don't know. That's basically what I'm gathering there, Dr. Keith. I don't know if she beat up her boyfriend or what, but apparently she got a domestic assault charge, right? So, and if you're working with, a vulnerable patient, right? You're working with vulnerable individuals. I mean, how can you say that they're not going to look at that whenever it pops up on her background the next time they check? I absolutely believe that they will look at that. Absolutely. Eli's girlfriend. Eli's girlfriend. So yeah, I absolutely believe that. That's a real possibility. It depends on where she's working at, what section, what area she's doing it at. And absolutely, we can make six figures. I should be making six figures doing what I do, or better. So I mean, absolutely, and as I get experience and shit, and I got an opportunity to continue doing school and everything else, and continue to work my way up. So absolutely, you can make very good money doing this. Absolutely, 100,000%. But yeah, that's all I got. Peace out.